everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and today we're kicking off the Losers Club readathon. In case you're unaware, the Losers Club readathon is a Stephen King themed readathon that's being hosted by myself, Beth from Beth's All Booked, and Elizabeth from Reading Riley. I think I can speak for all of us when I say how excited we are to be launching this readathon and to see how excited other people have been and getting engaged in the Discord and sharing what you're going to be reading on Instagram. It's all been so much fun already and it hasn't even begun yet. It really technically hasn't even begun yet because for me, I'm filming this on Thursday and the readathon starts tomorrow on Friday, but I did want to go ahead and open the vlog, let you know what I'm planning on reading, and I might even start reading a little bit tonight just to get a little bit ahead of the game because I do have some plans tomorrow evening, and so I just need to get a little bit ahead of the game. If you want to know all the details about this readathon, I'm going to save you time in this video and just go ahead and send you to my announcement video where I talk about all of the details, all of the prompts, the activities, and whatnot over there. But for right now, I want to tell you what I'm planning on reading during the readathon, at least what I'm planning on reading right now, and that might potentially change throughout the readathon because I'm a big proponent of mood reading throughout readathons, because if I'm not having fun with the books I'm reading, I just don't feel like picking books up. I'm not as in the mood to read, but if I'm reading books that I'm loving and really interested in, I have a much better time. So I am going to be flexible with it, but I wanted to give you an idea of sort of what I'm planning on picking up. I'm not going to talk about all the books because there's a lot to talk about, but we do have a lot of different reading prompts and then activity prompts as well. So I'm just going to show you here what all the prompts are and what books I'm currently planning on pairing with those prompts. As I mentioned, this very well may change. I recently bought a lot of books after my birthday for myself just as a little treat because I hadn't been buying books in a while. And so a lot of those are really high on my radar and I think I might try to squeeze some of those in. But like I said, I just want to mood read, so I'm just going to be reading whatever I'm in the mood for. Except I will definitely be reading 1922 because that is our buddy read, and that is also going to be the buddy watch that we will be watching, the adaptation of that story. So that is a guaranteed one. And I really do want to read Salem's Lot by Stephen King because it is a Stephen King themed readathon, so I feel like I have to read another King book as well. But these are the plans. We'll see what happens. I might kickstart my reading tonight, but I will catch up with you again tomorrow to let you know what my first read is of the readathon and just how it's all going once things really get started. Turns out it was wise of me to start recording a little bit early because yesterday was the first day of the readathon and I did not get really any reading done. So today is Saturday, it is day 2 of the readathon, and now I have gotten a lot of reading done and I can tell you all about it. But Friday just got away from me. I ended up getting really busy and didn't have time to read. But I've read today. It is 7:30 right now. I just had dinner and I've been reading a lot, so I wanted to update you on my books. Which one to start with? I'll start with Salem's Lot. So I have started reading Salem's Lot. I am at page 169 out of 640-ish. So decent chunk in, but still quite a ways to go. I went into this book not knowing much about it, and I kind of wish I would have looked into it a little bit more because all I knew about it was the creature that is featured in this book, but I didn't know the setup or anything about it. Salem's Lot is this town name. It's short for Jerusalem's Lot, and you're following a lot of different people in this town. You're following this main person who's named Ben Mears, and he spent time in Jerusalem's Lot when he was a kid, saw some creepy things, is now coming back as an adult as he is writing a book, coming to the town to get some inspiration for his latest book. Same time he's coming back, a kid ends up going missing and there's a creature who is causing issues in this town. I feel like it was a really slow beginning because it spent so much time just sending you to all these different characters in this town as you're just learning about the town and who all these people are, and it's just a really long, slow setup into the story. So I'm just not really loving this one. I'm not super invested in it. I'm listening to the audiobook of it, which is helping me a lot, and I'm gonna keep going through it because even though it's really long, I think the audiobook is easy to listen to, so I'm gonna keep going and see if I start enjoying it more. I've heard this has really creepy moments in it, so I'm looking forward to those, but so far I'm a little bit skeptical on this one. And then I've also been reading 1922, which is our buddy read. This one is about, I just had to check the back to see how much to tell you. I feel like I can tell you in more specifics what's going on in this one because literally the first sentence of the book gives away what is happening, but I don't know, people are sensitive to spoilers, so I will just keep it light. The story is about this family that lives on a farm in 1922. You have a father, a mother, and a teenage son. The father and the mother are arguing a lot about what to do with the land. She wants to sell it so they can move to the city. He does not. and that causes a lot of contention between them. And then the father and the son, as explained in the synopsis, end up committing a gruesome crime in order to keep the family homestead intact, and then it's about them being haunted after they do what they do. Pretty obvious what they do. It's also like in the first 2 sentences of the book, but because the synopsis doesn't say it, I guess I will not tell you exactly what's going on. But I am really enjoying this one so far. I am literally almost finished with it. I have like 30 pages left in it. This is the one that I read on the sprints that we did today on my channel, so I got to read a lot of it during that, and I'm planning on finishing this one tonight. So the next time I talk to you, I will for sure give you an update on the end of this one, and then this will complete the prompt for reading the buddy read, which will be great. Salem's Lot, I don't know, part of me wants to see if I can just finish it tomorrow by just listening to the audiobook, and that would probably be the only thing I'm able to read tomorrow because tomorrow's Sunday. But another part of me kind of wants to just take it in chunks and spread this one throughout the rest of the readathon, since I'm not super loving it, but that could also change. I don't know. So I'm not sure what the plans are going to be with this one, but I am going to finish 1922 in the next hour or so. So the next time I talk to you, I'll let you know my final thoughts on this one, and then we'll figure out what my reading plans are from there. Hello, it is the next day. I just filmed a video, so that's why I'm all set up in my spot. But I wanted to check in with you with how my reading has been so far. Today, it is Sunday, and just give you a quick little update. So first up, I did end up finishing 1922 last night. My book is just in the other room and I don't want to go grab it right now, so just enjoy this inserted image of the cover. I did end up enjoying this one quite a bit. I was kind of toggling between a 3.5 or a 4-star rating. I wasn't sure which felt more right, and I needed to sleep on it to really know, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and end up with just a 3.5 because I do think this one is going to be a little bit forgettable for me. I don't think it's going to be a book that frequently comes to mind if I'm thinking of a horror novella recommendation for someone, so it's not necessarily a 4, it's more like a 3.5 to me. Overall, I liked the story of this one. I thought it was an interesting concept. I liked the way the story carried out and how you're watching the guilt this man is dealing with in his life. I like the direction the story took and how it ultimately all wrapped up. I also saw someone say this is a sort of retelling of The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, and this one definitely feels really similar to an Edgar Allan Poe story in terms of just the seeping dread throughout the story, which I feel like Poe is really good at doing. And in the end of the book, in my copy at least, there was an author's note as well where King said that he had gotten inspiration for this story from a nonfiction work actually, which I can't remember the name of it is right now, but I'll pop it up here to let you know what it was when I go look back at my copy in a minute. And that story had this dreadful atmosphere, and that's what he was trying to capture. And so I do think he did that super well, but it also is super reminiscent of The Telltale Heart just in the overall setup of the story and what it is. The reasons that it's a 3.5 for me and not a higher rating is just more of like a personal preference thing. I feel like this wasn't the writing style I really gravitate to. You're following a farmer in the 20s, and so it definitely feels like you're following a farmer in the 20s, which just isn't my personal favorite type of story. I don't know, the dialect is just older. There's a lot of offensive language in this one because it is older and it is portraying an even older time, and it's not celebrated. It is on purpose to make you not like the character, so that's how I took it at least. But I don't know, just the overall setting of the story isn't my favorite thing. Like, I love a good locked room thriller. I love Isolated in the Snow. Just thinking of things I really enjoy and I find more interesting. A farm in the 20s where they have no money is just like not my favorite setting. And then because of the writing style, there were times where I would have to reread certain paragraphs, or I would find myself reading the words on the page but not comprehending them. You know, when you kind of go somewhere else while you're reading, then you have to like go back and reread because you're like, oh, what's happening? Like, I just wasn't super engaged in the story because of that. So that's more of a personal preference thing, I think. But I do like the way this one was written. This had some really gruesome, horrifying imagery. I was not expecting it to be as horrifying as it was at some times, and that was done so well. Like, obviously King knows how to write horror because he's like one of the biggest horror novelists of all time, but those scenes were such good horror. It was so good. So there were things I really enjoyed about the book, but it wasn't a personal favorite of mine. But I would recommend trying it out if you're interested interested in it. It is just a little over 100 pages, so not a huge time commitment. I did not listen to the audiobook, but I heard that the narrator's voice sounds like Nemo's dad, like Nemo the fish. So I can't comment on the audiobook experience, but I haven't heard great things about it. But yeah, that was kind of how I felt about 1922. And then I have read more of Salem's Lot today. I am around 60% through the book right now, on page 411 out of, again, like 650 in this copy. So still have a couple hours to go in this one. I do think I'm gonna try to finish this one today just so I can be done with it, because I'm not really enjoying it. Yeah, I don't really know much to say of why I'm not enjoying it. It's just not a favorite of mine. I feel like if this was the first book I ever picked up from Stephen King, I would probably not read more from Stephen King, because I would assume that it's all like this. But I don't know, I need to like look back in the timeline to figure out when this one was published and when his other books that I've read were published, and kind of try to figure out, like, is there a certain decade of King's that I don't love, or like everything after the 80s I enjoy more than anything before the 80s. I think this was published in 1975, but I'm just really not enjoying it very much. I don't really like the writing style. It's a lot about the town. I just spend so much time with the town and all these different characters, and it doesn't feel like a lot is really happening. I mean, I just can't believe I've read 400 pages and I just don't feel like a lot has happened. I mean, that is longer than the average novel that I read. So I don't know, this one's just not really resonating with me as much, but I am gonna finish it. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully the ending is better. I also was looking at chapter summaries for this book online, like from Shmoop, I think the website is called, just to like read through everything that had happened to make sure I wasn't missing anything, because I have been listening to this one on audiobook and I've been doing a puzzle, and sometimes, you know, you go out of it and the writing style is older because this was written in the 70s. So I don't know, it's just like a little bit harder for me to follow at times. So I was just reading the chapter summaries, and Shmoop has a very sarcastic, witty tone to it as well when it's doing these chapter summaries. And it was like, you're on page 100 now and there still haven't been any vampires, like, come on, let's get things moving. So even they were talking about it in a way of like, yeah, this is a slow book, you spend so much time getting this build up, let's get into the juicy stuff. Like, oh my gosh, you keep ominously looking over at this house, like, let's talk about what's going on in the house, let's just make some things happen. So I do feel like this one's just really stretched out, which isn't my favorite, and I don't feel like it's super character driven. Like Ben Mears and Susan, the girl he's with, I feel like they could be kind of anybody. I don't feel like they're super strong characters, and that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people like this one, but it's just not really resonating with me super much. So I'm gonna finish it. We'll see how I feel by the end, but not super hopeful at this point. And then after that, everything else that I'll have to read for the rest of the week that's on my TBR is non-King books. So starting heavy on the King books, and then we'll finish out with some other stuff after this. But I'm gonna spend a couple more hours today, probably like in 3 hours I can finish this book, I think, based off of the 17-hour audiobook and going at 2.5 times speed and how many hours I have left in that. So I'm gonna try to finish that out, work on a puzzle that I'm working on. Gotta go get some groceries and do some chores for today as well. And yeah, I'll let you know when I finish Salem's Lot what I think of it. So I finished Salem's Lot. It is the next day. I did finish this yesterday as I wanted to. I was either gonna stretch it out through the week or just finish it, and I just decided to finish it because I wasn't really enjoying it, and I didn't end up really enjoying it in the end. Anyways, this one's gonna end up being a 2-star for me. I feel like the main thing for me is just, I didn't like how much of it was about the town and would just take you through the history of the town and all the different characters, and you would have these chapters that were for the lot, and so you would just see inside all these people's houses. That just pulled me out of the story, and I wanted more of the main characters, and I wanted the main characters to drive the story a bit more. And so personally, it just did end up being my favorite thing, but I know a lot of people have really enjoyed this one. It is a very popular one from King. So if it's something you're interested in, I would still recommend checking it out. And I do think I'm gonna enjoy this story more in the adaptation form. Like, I really feel like I would enjoy this in a TV show just because there's so much that you could spread out. And I like in TV shows when you're following a lot of different characters, but in books, it doesn't always work for me. And this is a case where it didn't. This is going to be adapted into a movie probably next year, so I will be watching that. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they pack all of this into a movie because there's a lot of material in this. So they're definitely gonna have to cut some things out. And you know, maybe I'll end up liking that more since I didn't love all the town pieces. But yeah, that is how I felt about Salem's Lot. So now that I've completed 2 books, that puts my status with the prompts to here. I'm double counting some of them to help me get through them a little more quickly. And now the next book that I'm gonna be reading is Tampa by Alyssa Nutting for the school setting prompt. I did start this one last night, so I've made a good, decent chunk into it. I'm probably like 30% in right now. I'm at page 88, and this one is very, very disturbing, very intense, way more vulgar and graphic than I thought it was going to be. It's a lot. It's one of those books that I am going to say, don't just go pick it up just because you see me reading it right now. Like, hold on a minute, wait for another, 3 minutes in the vlog to see my full thoughts, and first see what happens, but then also check your content and trigger warnings because this is a lot. You're following this woman who is a school teacher. She is 26 years old and she has a thing for teenage boys, particularly 14-year-old teenage boys, and she is basically grooming a kid in her class. I don't really know where the story's gonna go, the message that it's gonna tell. I'm hoping it goes in a positive direction to bring a meaningful message to light. And not just to be shocking and disturbing for shock value, but I don't know, we're gonna see. But yeah, so far, I really do like the writing of it. This author definitely has a good writing style. There's some really good one-liners in here. This is very great character building in this very awful woman. So I'm very intrigued because of that, but I just genuinely have no idea where it's gonna go. So that's that. I'm gonna keep reading this one, but first we have our movie watch tonight, so I'm getting ready for that. It literally starts in 8 minutes, so I've gotta get that all set up. I'm gonna be watching that on my projector, which is a lot of fun. I also watched a movie on my projector last night. I watched the new movie from BJ Novak called Vengeance, which is it's called a comedic thriller, but I wouldn't call it a thriller. It's like a comedic mystery. Yeah, I would call it a comedic mystery. Kind of like a cozy mystery, but yeah, no, it's kind of like a cozy mystery. It's kind of like Finley Donovan is killing it. But yeah, I thought that one was fun, and I'm excited to watch 1922 now. That is the movie we're watching for our buddy watch. We're gonna be chatting in the Discord, which is always a lot of fun. And I don't know, we'll see how the movie goes. People have had pretty mixed thoughts about the book from what I've seen in the chat so far. I feel like it's mostly around 3-star territory for people. Some people are really not liking it. I'm not seeing a lot of people really love it. Most people are sort of right in the middle about it. So we'll see how the adaptation holds up and how people feel about it. Hopefully there's not too many disturbing scenes with rats, although I feel like there's definitely going to be, so that'll be fun. And yeah, I'll check in with you after that and after I read a bit more of Tampa. So, I hit 10,000 subscribers today. That is such a crazy cool number to see. I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. I put out this message on my Instagram and on my YouTube community channel when I hit this today, just as a thank you and like, wow, how crazy cool is this? I still kind of can't believe that I am at 10K, but just thank you so much for being here. It is so wild that so many people just choose to hang out with me, talk about books with me, and it is just so cool what a community I've built here in the past 2 years. I talk about this every time I hit a kind of cool milestone, but I mean, there's always new people here, I guess, at the point of that, but you've probably heard this before if you've been here a while. But I started this channel in 2020, right after the pandemic began in March, and I don't know, I just like put my iPhone up and I filmed a little video, and I actually filmed it for Instagram. It was like an IGTV video when IGTV was a thing, which I don't think it is anymore. I think now it's just Reels. And that was actually the first video I ever did. And when I did that, I was like, I might as well just post it on YouTube as well. It was like my March wrap up from 2022. And then I filmed a video for my April TBR, same ordeal on Instagram, and then did it on YouTube. And I was like, why don't I just like try out the YouTube thing? I loved YouTube growing up. I was watching BookTube back in like 2010, 2011 when BookTube was like getting big and people were doing the skits, and it was like a lot of individual book reviews, and I've seen how it's just changed over the past decade. There was even a point where I like wanted to be a vlogger when I was in high school. Like me and my best friend would like film stupid videos. We had this one video where we went to like go a museum and like we were just vlogging our lives, just being stupid. I probably did like 3 or 4 videos and then just never thought about it again. But I've always been interested in this kind of video space, and I don't know, you just never feel like it's going to actually work out for you. And this has just been really cool that I've been able to meet so many great people. I've made so many good friends, like meaningful actual friends in this platform, which is just so cool. And I just wish I could go back to 2020 pandemic, isolation, quarantine Ashley and just let her know this was all going to be such a cool journey. But it's also cool that I didn't know that, and then it has become this thing. So anyway, all that to say, thank you so much for being here. It is just so cool to have this place, to have this safe space on the internet to just talk about books with you guys. This is my favorite and only hobby. So I just really am glad that I have this place to come hang out with everyone, and I just really appreciate you being here. Back to the vlog now. For my reading update, I am still reading Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we watched the movie last night. Let me start with the movie watch. The movie watch was a lot of fun. I love movie watches in Discord. It is just so fun to chat about a movie together with a bunch of people. It literally feels like you're having a slumber party with your friends back in high school. I love it so much. My hopes with the readathon that I created, the 24-hour horror-a-thon, is that movie watches will be a part of it too, but I just haven't done that yet, and I don't have anything planned for the October round of a movie watch. But after last night, I'm like, no, we definitely need a movie watch. We're gonna figure out a movie to watch together because it is so much fun. But yeah, really enjoyed the experience of that. For the movie in itself, I feel like I actually liked the book better, and I still didn't really love the book in itself. The book was like a 3.5, I think is what I said I rated it. It feels like a 3.5 to me now, at least. The movie, I don't feel like I would have enjoyed as much if I hadn't read the book before, because it's kind of hard to know what's going on at times. It just doesn't go as deep into character motivations in the movie as it does in the book, and I feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the reading experience of the book. So if you're interested in the book, I would definitely recommend reading it before watching the movie. And if you've read the book, I don't think you really gain anything new from watching the movie, but if you've got time to spare, you might as well just put it on anyways. So that's sort of how I felt about the movie. Now back into my books, I am still reading Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. I'm actually farther than halfway because I've been listening to the audiobook. Let me see what chapter I'm on. So I am just about at the end of chapter 12, which is about 190 pages into this one. So I just have a little bit left. So I am planning on finishing this one tonight. I just have a little bit over an hour left in the audiobook at the speed that I am listening to it. And I do like having the audiobook paired with this one because I like the narrator and it really helps bring this main character to life, who freaking sucks. But it also makes me wildly uncomfortable because the scenes in this book are wildly uncomfortable and it's weird to hear someone read them to you. So do with that information what you will. I just don't know what this book is trying to be, but I'm just gonna have to bear with it until the end to see what the final message is going to be. It has really good reviews on Goodreads from what I've seen of people whose reviews I recognize reviewing a lot of books that I read. They seem to like it, and so I'm very interested to see where it's gonna go in the end. But I've been telling my boyfriend about this book as I'm reading it. I'm like, this is what it's about, this is what's happening so far, and he's like, literally, what are you reading? I'm like, I just genuinely don't know. I thought it was a horror book, but I don't know where it's going, but it is absolutely horrifying. So I'm gonna have to just finish this one out to see what message it's trying to send before I can tell you how I feel about it. But I am gonna finish it soon, so I'll check in with you again later after I finish this one. And then after that, I just got book mail in today, and it was Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman from Beth from Beth's All Books. She sent me this book, and oh my gosh, I am so excited. This is one of my most anticipated books of the rest of the year. I absolutely love this cover. It is amazing. I don't know if this is going to fit any of the prompts for this readathon, but it is going to have to fit because this is what I want to read next. But first, I'm going to finish Tampa, and I will let you know what I think of it when I'm done. Happened. I did finish Tampa, and I feel so very weird about this book. As soon as I finished it, I was like, I'm going to have to read reviews, I'm going to have to read articles. I just simply don't get it. And it turns out that this book was actually inspired by a true case of something that happened with this woman named Deborah LaFave here in Tampa, Florida. She was a school teacher who was having sex with a 14-year-old student of hers. It went to court, and the way that that case played out is the same way that the case plays out in this book. So I won't spoil that, but just know if you do want to read this, and if you don't want to know what's going to happen, I don't know, just know like this follows that very similar path. So just spoiler wise, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not really going to be recommending this book, so it might not matter anyway because you might just not pick it up. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm like struggling to understand all the positive reviews I've seen of this one because I just feel like I didn't get it. I mean, I did, but I didn't at the same time. What I feel like this book is trying to do is two things. One, it flips the script from normal expectations. You're used to seeing teacher-student relationships be between an older male teacher and a younger female student, with the female being a victim. And so when you flip the script, it does a similar thing to another book I'm going to talk about in a minute, where it desensitizes you to it, and also it brings up these conversations of, is a young boy a victim? Because people will say like, oh, he's so lucky, that's any teenage boy's dream for like this hot teacher to want to hook up with him, but it is predatory, it is grooming, it is pedophilia, it is not okay. What it also does is it puts you in the mind of this very terrible person. You are in this woman's mind and you're in there. You're seeing every dark thought of hers. It's very, very graphic. It's very in your face. The author says that she did that on purpose. It's a lot. The book that I would compare this to is Any Man by Amber Tamblyn, which does a similar thing where it follows the stories of these men who were sexually assaulted by this woman, but in that book, you closely follow the victims and you understand the consequences of that and how that ruins people's lives. You see how that ruins people's lives in here, but because you're in her mind, oh gosh, I don't know. I just don't know about this one. I don't know how to rate it. I don't know what to say about it. It was just a weird one. Wouldn't even really know how to categorize this in genre. Like, it's called fiction, it's called horror, it's all these things. It's a horrifying thing, but it is just very like lots of graphic sex scenes. So I don't know. That's that on that. Then I decided to pick up this graphic novel Little Girls by Nicholas Affleje and Sarah Delane. And I read this whole thing. It went by very quickly. I stumbled upon this randomly at a local comic store that I was at recently, and I just picked it up because it looked cool. Didn't really end up having the best time with this one. Probably would give it like a 2-star. Didn't really like the story of it. It's mostly just about these lions and these hyenas fighting each other and these girls trying to figure out what's going on, and there's this monster, and the monster thing is creepy, but overall the story just wasn't super interesting to me. But this completes the prompt of a creepy setting, which really I guess it didn't, because it really wasn't a creepy setting now that I've read the book, but it looked like it was going to be about a creepy setting, but I guess it kind of is because it's about like this going on in the town. I'm gonna count it for creepy setting, and so there's that. So that leaves me with this status of the prompts. So I just need to complete female protagonist, recommended by King, and favorite author. So what I decided to do was go ahead and start A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, which will complete recommended by King and a favorite author of mine. I know I really wanted to read Ghost Eaters next, but I just have to complete the prompts. I'm just convincing myself I have to complete the prompts. I never complete prompts in readathons. This is a readathon I'm hosting. I have to complete the prompts. So I'm going to be reading A Head Full of Ghosts next. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to Ghost Eaters during this readathon because it's Tuesday night now, so I only have 2 days left, but we'll see. I don't know, I'll try. All I know about A Head Full of Ghosts is it has something to do with a girl who may or may not be possessed, and then I think there's also a TV show being made about it. I just started and I'm about 20% into the audiobook. I'm also going to be following along in the ebook when I can. So far all I've done is the audiobook. The audiobook narrator is not my favorite, but we're rolling with it, and so far so good. But I'm gonna keep listening to more of that, and then I'll check in with you to let you know how it's going. Okay, I have a lot to catch you up on. So I finished A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay today. Absolutely loved it. 5 stars. I just freaking loved it. I love Paul Tremblay's stuff. I read this book for the prompt of reading a book by your favorite author and also a book recommended by King. I just feel so confident in cementing that Paul Tremblay is one of my favorite authors because I gave Cabin at the End of the World 5 stars, I gave The Pallbearers Club 4 stars, and then this one I gave 5 stars as well. And I could even call The Pallbearers Club a 5-star book for what it is, looking back on it too. So I just really don't have any misses with Paul Tremblay yet. I just really love his stuff. I know he's not the author for everyone, and the ambiguity in his books and the more literary focus towards his books and the way he writes and the type of horror he does is a little bit different. So I know that's not for everyone, but I really love his stuff and I had such a good time with this book. I don't think I ever fully told you what it was about, but you're following these 2 sisters pretty much, but you're mostly following the younger sister, Mary. Her older sister, Marjorie, was afflicted at this point in their childhood where the family, the mom and the dad, basically believed that Marjorie was possessed by some evil entity because of the way she was acting out. And then this TV crew caught on to it. They made a documentary series show about it, and it really had a big effect on the younger sister, Mary. So you're following Mary many years later when she's an adult, reflecting back on the experience because she's being interviewed about it. And so you're learning from her perspective what went on. I just thought it was so good. I love the voice of the characters. I just loved the characterization of the characters. I thought they were all just built out really well. At times, this book reminded me of all the best parts of House of Leaves. It also sort of reminded me of The Shining in some ways. I love the family dynamics. I love the ambiguity of, is she possessed, or is this a mental health thing, or is this a side effect of all of the traumatic other things going on in their family, and the way that she's acting out because of that, as you learn other things that are going on in the family. And then the way it ends is so good, and I just loved everything about it. So really had a good time with this one. Definitely want to pick up the physical copy so I can have it on my shelves, and I'm for sure going to want to reread this one someday, because once I got to the end, I already went back and reread some sections, because there's also like a true crime blogger's excerpts in the book at different places. And once you learn what's going on, I wanted to go back and reread those. So I already reread like that part as soon as I finished the book. I just had such a good time with it. Really enjoyed it, but would, with all of Paul Tremblay's books, recommend it to a particular audience, because I feel like people think his books are going to be one thing, and then they're just not that, and then they get disappointed with it. It's important to know there's a lot of ambiguity in there, because all three of his books that I've read so far have all had a lot of ambiguity packed into them, so that has to be something you're comfortable with to like his things. But love that one, had such a good time with it. And then next up, I picked up Censor by Junji Ito. I read this one during the reading sprints we did tonight on Best Channel. I read the whole thing, and I thought this one was fine. I was doing this one to complete the female protagonist prompt, so I have now completed all of the prompts by reading this one. This is a story about this woman who's like wandering in this area, and she comes across these people, and there's something weird going on in the town, specifically with hair, and she gets pulled into it, and then this other character starts coming in and is trying to figure out what's going on in the town, and there's like psychic energy of connections with the divine and supernatural things going on, and the mystery of it all. It was just a little bit too big, I think, for me, like two big ideas for me to get really immersed in it. I definitely enjoyed Uzumaki more than this one, but this one did also have like similar things to Uzumaki that I liked about it. I just like the way Junji Ito builds on his stories in each chapter, and the way he kind of goes off on these different kind of tangents, but it all ends up being connected, I think is really cool. And I definitely want to read more from him in the future, but overall this one was just a 3-star for me. And then after that, I decided to finally pick up Ghost Eaters by Clay McCoy Chapman. I picked this one up in the reading sprints, and I'm about 50 pages in so far. You're following this girl named Erin who is friends with this guy Silas, and she's always kind of bailed him out of things. He ends up in rehab a lot, and he's always like calling on her to save him, and she's really kind of ready to get over that and wants him to learn some boundaries, but she ends up bailing him out of rehab, and then, this is in the synopsis, it's not a spoiler, he dies. And then she ends up encountering these people who say that they have this drug called Ghost that allows you to encounter with ghosts, but it apparently has really bad side effects. So that's what this one's supposed to be about. The tone is kind of surprising me so far. It feels a little bit kind of YA in the beginning, but I do think they're like fresh college kids right in the beginning prologue scene, so that might be why. There's just like a lot of dialogue. It kind of reads a little lighter, but that also might be because I'm coming off of a Paul Tremblay book, which is more dense. So maybe it's just like a tone shift that I'm adjusting to there. But so far, there's not much to say about the first 50 pages. I mean, I'm optimistic about the story, but a lot hasn't happened yet. So I'm gonna have to read more of this before I can make a call on it. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish this one tomorrow. And since I've already finished all of the prompts, I'm not really worried about finishing this one tomorrow. And I don't wanna try to rush my way through it if I don't have to. But if I'm able to pack this one in to one more day, then I might as well. But if I don't finish it tomorrow, it's not a big deal for me, but I'll keep reading and updating you tomorrow before I end out the vlog, so I'll check in with you again then. Okay, it is the last day of the Losers Club readathon, and I did not end up reading more today and finishing the book Ghost Eaters, but that's totally okay because I already finished all the prompts and I won the key to the city, so that was all I was setting out to do anyways. So I'm cool with just stopping it here today instead of trying to force another book, but I will be reading that book after this vlog, and I will be finishing it by the end of the month, so stay tuned for for my wrap up to see how I feel about that book, which is one of my most anticipated books of the year. But I do want to wrap up all the things that I read for the readathon. So first up, we have our buddy read 1922, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I think I ended up rating it a 3.5. It was good. There were some good, gory, gruesome moments in it, but it wasn't incredibly memorable to me, and it's not a horror novella that's going to come top of mind when I'm recommending horror novellas, so it was just an okay time. Then I also completed the movie watch prompt because we watched the adaptation of 1922 together, which was also a fun time, but I definitely enjoyed the book a little bit better than the movie, and I feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed the movie without the book. So again, an okay time. For the prompt of reading a secondhand book, I read Salem's Lot, and I did not really enjoy that one as much as I was hoping to. It ended up being a 2-star for me, but I am still excited to watch the movie adaptation whenever that ends up coming out next year. A Head Full of Ghosts I read for the Recommended by King prompt and reading a book by a favorite author, and I absolutely loved it. It was 5 stars, so that was definitely the highlight of the readathon for me. Tampa I read for the school setting prompt, and this one just made me feel all kinds of weird, and I refused to put a rating on it. The graphic novel I read called Little Girls didn't really do anything for me, so that one I'm also rating a 2-star. I just wasn't really into the story of that one. And then Censor was okay. It was a very average time for me, so that one I ended up rating 3 stars. So that is it for all of the books I read for the Losers Club readathon. This was so much fun. I had so much fun chatting with everyone during the readathon, doing reading sprints, doing our bingo challenge, doing the movie watch. It was all just such a good time. And I was just so surprised by how many people were excited about the readathon and participated in the readathon and were being super active in the readathon the whole time. And it was just so fun to see all the books you were reading as you guys were sharing those in the Discord and on Instagram. And thank you so much for participating. This was just so much fun. Let me know down in the comments below if you participated in the readathon, and let me know what your favorite read of the readathon was. And if you want to leave an emoji down in the comments below to let me know that you got to the end of today's video, we can do the red balloon emoji because of course. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye!